Good morning, friends. Today, it's a bit, it's actually very dark and rainy outside. It's kind of, reminds me a little bit of like a horror movie type of setting. Um, so it's just kind of, a little spooky out today. A little raining, actually quite a bit of rain, and it's a little bit cold. I'd say it's probably around 10, 15 degrees outside. So, today I'm going to talk about, I have actually a few suggestions. I'm just going to knock these off one by one as the days progress. As you know, I do not do mornings with wosX on weekends. So they will continue throughout on Monday. But I have one because someone requested that I do something about my high school reunion that I had went to around a couple weeks ago. Or actually, no, it was more than that. It's almost been a month now. So, I guess I can just tie this into high school in general, right? But I went to my high school reunion. It was weird to go. I didn't actually graduate from this high school. I left my junior year, but I had been there since the 7th grade, so I was there for like five or 6 years, and no less than that, 4 years or 5 years. I don't know, but I was there for a significant part of my life, a very dramatic shift in my life, going through puberty, becoming an adolescent at this time in my life, and that was when I was at this particular high school. And going to the reunion is definitely a little bit weird because it's 5 years since I've been there, which is the same amount of time that I had been in high school, at that specific high school. And for me right now as an older adult, 5 years, it really doesn't feel that long ago. In fact, it kind of just, there are some parts that I remember from 5 years ago that almost feel like 1 year ago, or sometimes even maybe a few months ago, or maybe not that bad. Maybe when I'm older, I'll start to feel like that. But once I actually get into the high school and start seeing the people that I haven't seen in 5 years, it sort of like dawns on me how much time has passed. And even 5 years isn't that long. It's like, a sudden realization, and it feels like, wow, it actually has been a while since I've been in high school. And the same thing happened to me when I went to my cousin's graduation, his high school graduation. He was 18, and same thing for me. I felt like at the time I was like, oh, this doesn't feel that long ago since I graduated. But then seeing all the kids and just realizing how much younger they were than me, like it was like a very apparent thing looking at them. It was like, wow, these kids are young, like they're fucking young ass kids. And it really took me back to when I was in high school, and it felt really I wouldn't say it's off-putting, but it puts a lot of perspective as to how much I've changed and grown in the past 5 years, even though I don't think I do. And I think at this point I've reflected on my high school experience a bit, and sort of realized that there was a lot of freedoms and a lot of great things that happened during that time, not for me specifically, just circumstances that I don't think I took advantage of or I appreciated fully at the time. And I don't think most teenagers do. They sort of take advantage of everything that sort of happens around them. I mean, they're adolescents, they're teenagers, they don't, they want that sense of freedom that adults have. But really all that freedom is just a lot more responsibilities. And, I wouldn't really want to say I would go back to where I was. But if I were to relive my life, I would definitely do things a lot differently and definitely appreciate that time in my life a lot more. That freedom to basically, have parents and live at their house and, have all your meals set for you and not have to worry about your future really. Because it's different at that state in mind because time moves by so slowly when you're a kid, and then you become an adolescent. You're not really aware of how fast time is going to go by once you leave or once you become an adult. And it really does change. It really does get a lot faster as you get older. And that was what to me was like the most shocking for me. Now I'm kind of like obviously used to it because I've, lived or whatever. But at that moment in time, you sort of feel like you can be like a teenager for like a really long time, or it's like you're in grade 8 or grade 9 and you sort of see senior year and graduation as so far away, whereas it's what, like 4 years, really 4 years away from when you graduate, which now it's like I look back 4 years ago and it was like, wow, that really wasn't that long ago. It felt like, there's some points where it just felt like, oh yeah, that was like a year ago, and it's like, oh shit, no, that wasn't, that was like 4 years ago. And that I know that's going to increase as I get older. I know I was talking to my dad actually because we watched the movie I, Tanya together. I wasn't born when the Tanya Harding incident happened, where she, was allegedly involved in hitting or bashing that skater's knee in. By the way, that's a really good movie. I would definitely suggest watching I, Tanya. But aside from that, I was talking to my dad. I was like, how long does that feel to you, like when that happened? And he said it felt like 10 years or something like that, when in reality it was like 24 years. So, the time that it felt was actually more than double, or the time that actually happened was more than double than what he felt actually happened. And that to me, it's like 24 years. That's longer than all of my life that I've lived. So I guess this is coming more, not really about high school, but more about, how time passes and how quickly it does. Going back on the subject of high school, one of the main things I miss a lot is the schedule, like the rigid schedule that I have that was like a part of my life, right? When you're a kid, you sort of want to stray away from that schedule or that sense of being bogged down in a rigid sense. It's like you have all your schedules and whatnot, and you have to see the same people every day, and you sit at the same table at lunch. And there's a part of me that kind of misses that. There's a part of me that misses like having to see people that I know like every single day, and you can get that in a traditional working environment if you work in an office space or you work just any sort of white collar job. You sort of have that same type of feel. I work at a cafe restaurant type of thing. I'm working there tonight actually, and there's not that same sense of schedule and getting together with people that I know. I mean, I see like the cooks, like there's I work with one other person, and that's basically it. And it depends on the shift, and we work together for 8 hours. There's no there's no set break or no set anything really. It's just you kind of just there for 8 hours and you do your job. And that's the one thing about high school that I miss, is that sort of rigid. It's like it's a different vibe that you get in high school. It's that free, very youthful energy, I guess you would call it. But obviously everything is feels better in retrospect. You sort of get nostalgic for things that weren't actually that good to begin with. You're just sort of reliving the past because it's familiar. And I guess that's sort of a thing that happens to me sometimes, is that I want to relive what was familiar to me because I know what happened. Back in high school, it was very predictable. Right now in my life, there's a lot of things that are very unpredictable. And, sort of looking towards the future is not so bright and shiny, I guess I would say. In high school, it was very much like, there's a set path for you to take. You graduate high school and then you go to college, and that was sort of it. You didn't really have to think about anything else. It was sort of like, here's the path, and you follow it. And then now, once I've gotten older, and realized that maybe college wasn't for me, I've sort of realized that, this path that I need to follow is really something that I need to figure out on my own. It's not an easy thing to figure out. It's going to take me a long time to really figure out. And there's a lot of people in the world that are still figuring it out. And that was sort of the what's the word? The realization, I guess you would say, the enlightenment that I had becoming going into my 20s, was realizing this reality that life is changing very very rapidly, and I need to create a path for myself, which high school sort of was an illusion of a path. It was an illusion of this is where you're going in life, and that was sort of it gave you like a safe feeling that you felt like, okay, everything's going to be okay, because it's like, you have your parents and then you go to school and then it's fine. Although it's obviously different for people of different economic and social backgrounds and whatnot, which we don't, this isn't the subject at hand. So anyway, those are my thoughts for today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.